Hello friends, welcome to Story Time. Today, we're taking a look at a survival thriller movie released in 2026 called Apex. The movie opens high above the mountains of Norway. Thick clouds cover the sky as freezing winds roar through the cliffs. Far away from the world, a young couple slowly climbs the dangerous troll wall, one of the deadliest rock faces on Earth. The couple are Sasha and Tommy. Sasha is a professional rock climber and kayaker who lives for extreme adventures, while Tommy shares the same passion for danger and exploration. Hanging hundreds of feet above the ground, the two carefully move across the icy rocks with only ropes keeping them alive. Everything around them feels calm and beautiful, but at the same time, extremely dangerous. The higher they climb, the stronger the wind becomes, and one small mistake could send them falling into the freezing darkness below. At first, everything looks fine. The couple laughs together and enjoys their time while climbing. Suddenly, the weather starts to change. Heavy snow starts falling. The temperature drops fast. Before they even have time to react, a violent storm begins to blow. The rocks become slippery, and suddenly, ice explodes from the mountain above them. It crashes against the cliff with a sound like thunder. The ropes shake violently, and Tommy loses his grip, smashing against the rocks before going limp and unconscious. The rope between them suddenly goes tight, and Sasha feels Tommy's full weight pulling her down. She desperately tries to save him, screaming his name while holding the rope with all her strength. But the ice beneath Sasha begins to shatter. Realizing both of them will die if she keeps holding on, Sasha tearfully lets go. Tommy disappears into the freezing abyss below as she watches in horror, utterly helpless. Tommy plummets to his death. Sasha survives, but her soul is completely crushed. The scene then shifts to 5 months later. Sasha has become a ghost of her former self. Haunted by guilt, she heads alone into the remote wilderness of Wandara National Park in Australia. With only her car, her kayak, and Tommy's lucky compass beside her, she searches for complete isolation. Sasha arrives at the park and signs her name at the ranger station. The local ranger, Cole, warns her that several hikers have recently disappeared in the area and tells her to be careful out there. But Sasha barely reacts. After everything she's already been through, death no longer feels frightening to her. On her way deeper into the wilderness, Sasha stops at a lonely gas station to fill up her tank. But the quiet stop quickly turns tense when a group of rough-looking local hunters begins surrounding her, throwing uncomfortable remarks her way. Just as the situation starts turning dangerous, a calm and polite local man named Ben steps in. Ben firmly orders the creepy hunters to back off, instantly slicing through the tension in the air. After Ben leaves, Sasha notices the meat jerky he delivered to the store and grabs one. He seems friendly and trustworthy, and after spotting her camping gear, he directs her to a beautiful, isolated campsite hidden deep beside the river. Thanking him for the help, Sasha starts the car and drives deeper into the wilderness. That night, Sasha reaches the secluded campsite and parks beside the silent river, believing she has finally found peace. But the feeling doesn't last for long. Out of the darkness, the same creepy hunters from the gas station suddenly appear, surrounding her car with flashing headlights and cruel laughter. They tap on the windows and circle her like predators, while Sasha sits trapped inside, holding her breath in fear. After what feels like forever, the hunters finally leave, disappearing back into the darkness. The next morning, eager to get as far away from those creeps as possible, Sasha loads up her kayak and heads into the rushing river rapids. The wild current fights against her every step of the way, but Sasha moves through the dangerous waters like a professional. By evening, she reaches a quiet spot deep within the forest and sets up her tent, finally beginning to feel safe again. But the peace is shattered the next morning when she wakes up to a horrifying discovery: her backpack is gone. Along with it, all her food, water, and survival gear have completely vanished without a trace. Sasha takes her kayak and searches for any sign of her missing bag. As she paddles along the river, she spots a canoe tied to a tree and moves closer to investigate. Moments later, she stumbles upon a quiet campsite. Sitting beside the fire, calmly cooking breakfast as if nothing ever happened, is Ben, the same friendly stranger from the gas station. At first, Ben acts warm and friendly. He smiles, offers Sasha some breakfast, and calmly tells her he's only been watching over her to make sure she's safe out here in the wilderness. But deep down, Sasha instantly feels something is off. Her survival instincts start screaming at her. Sensing that something is wrong, Sasha tries to leave, but Ben suddenly blocks her path. That's when she notices the bracelet he's wearing, the same one attached to her missing bag. In that terrifying moment, Sasha finally understands the truth: Ben was never trying to protect her. He's been hunting her all along. The second Ben realizes Sasha knows the truth, the friendly mask on his face completely vanishes. His warm smile twists into something cold, empty, and terrifying. Without saying a word, he walks toward his tent and tosses the bag back to her. Then he slowly reaches down and pulls out a sleek, high-tech crossbow. After that, he calmly places a portable boombox radio on a nearby log, as if he's preparing for a game only he understands. Ben leans back and calmly lays out the rules of his horrifying game, speaking as if this is all perfectly normal. He reveals that after meeting her at the ranger station, he searched for her name and uncovered every dark piece of her past. He knows about Tommy's death, and the guilt that has been destroying her ever since. Ben slowly presses play on the boombox, and suddenly a loud, fast-paced song explodes through the silent forest. The music echoes between the trees as Ben stares at Sasha with a terrifying smile. Then, in a calm voice, he gives her a head start. "You've got until the end of this song to run," he says. When the music stops, the hunt begins. Sasha doesn't wait for another word. She turns, grabs her backpack, and sprints toward the river. She quickly jumps into her kayak and begins to paddle as fast as she can. Every second feels like a countdown to death. Then, the music suddenly cuts out. Silence floods the forest. Back at the campsite, Ben slowly loads a bolt into his crossbow, a twisted grin spreading across his face before he disappears into the wilderness to track Sasha like hunted prey. With Ben closing in behind her, Sasha desperately launches her kayak into the raging current. The river drags her forward at terrifying speed, but the waters soon turn savage. Massive rapids smash the kayak against jagged rocks, shattering it to pieces. Sasha is violently thrown into the freezing water as her supplies vanish downstream. Bruised, exhausted, and completely alone, she crawls onto the shore before disappearing into the endless forest on foot. Suddenly, Sasha hears something impossible, the cheerful sound of a family laughing through the trees. Relief floods her as she sprints toward the voices, believing she's finally found help. But the moment she crashes through the bushes, her hope dies instantly. There's no family, only an old phone endlessly replaying the recording on a loop. It was a trap. Ben used the fake voices to lure Sasha into the open. Without warning, arrows rain down from the ridge above as Ben's manic laughter echoes through the forest. Sasha suddenly loses her footing and plunges into a deep ravine, her heart pounding in terror. She's terrified, but she refuses to give up. As Sasha climbs the rocks toward the top, she realizes that she is completely trapped in the middle of the jungle. From above, she spots Ben's canoe tied quietly along the riverbank, her only chance to escape this nightmare. Holding her breath, she slowly steps into the water, her trembling fingers reaching for the rope. Suddenly, a brutal iron bear trap snaps shut around her leg. Sasha's scream echoes through the forest as the jagged metal teeth tear deep into her flesh. She collapses onto the cold ground, trapped, helpless, and drowning in unbearable pain. Out of nowhere, Ben emerges and violently yanks Sasha toward him by the chain connected to the trap, a twisted grin spreading across his face. Desperate to survive, Sasha pulls out her pepper spray and blasts it directly into Ben's eyes. He howls in pain, stumbling backward as she frantically struggles to free herself from the trap. But before she can escape, Ben recovers, grabs his crossbow, and captures her once again. Ben drags Sasha back to his camp and leaves her bound outside beneath the pouring rain. All night long, she shivers in agony against the freezing ground while Ben silently watches her from inside the camp, lurking in the shadows like a predator guarding its prey. The next morning, Ben forces Sasha onto a boat and disappears deeper into the wilderness toward his hidden hideout. Desperate to escape, Sasha spots an iron hook beside her and lunges for it, ready to fight back. But Ben catches her in an instant. Furious, he hurls her overboard into the freezing water, her hands still bound to a rope tied to the boat. Sasha screams in terror as her body is dragged violently through the raging river behind him. After escaping the boat, Ben drags the wounded Sasha through a narrow tunnel deep beneath the earth and into a suffocating cave swallowed by darkness. When the lights finally flicker on, Sasha's blood runs cold. She recognizes the family from the videotape, their decayed bodies left to rot in the shadows. But the nightmare only gets darker. With horrifying calmness, Ben reveals the truth: he isn't just a hunter, but a ritualistic cannibal who butchers his victims and sells their dried flesh as jerky to unsuspecting tourists. Then, with a dead stare and no remorse, he admits he even carved up his own mother when she became too old and weak. Ben chains Sasha to the cold stone wall, surrounded by rotting carcasses like silent warnings. He turns away, certain she's next on his table. When Ben returns to finish her off, Sasha gathers every last ounce of strength and waits for the perfect moment. The instant he leans close, she bites his ear clean off. At the same time, the cable holding her captive suddenly snaps, though her wrists are still bound by heavy metal chains. With nowhere left to run, Sasha takes a deep breath and throws herself into the raging waters below. Ben dives in after her without hesitation. The river washes both of them ashore inside a massive, deserted canyon. The stone walls around them are hundreds of feet high, and there is absolutely no way out on foot. Sasha trembles in the chains, her breath ragged, blood staining the stone beneath her. At that moment, her survival instincts kick in, and she desperately tries to kill Ben. But Ben overpowers her and begins strangling her. Just as she thinks she's about to die, Ben suddenly snaps back to his senses and releases his grip. Realizing this is her chance, Sasha grabs a rock and smashes Ben's leg. The impact leaves it shattered in a brutal compound fracture, bone piercing through flesh like a snapped branch. He doesn't move, only gasps in agony, realizing the hunter has become just as trapped as his prey. Hours bleed into silence, the cave swallowing every sound but their ragged breathing. Sasha's strength fades, her mind slipping between pain and exhaustion. Then, in a cracked, trembling voice, she finally breaks. Confession spills out like blood from an old wound. She has been waiting for death for 5 months, convinced she caused Tommy's fall. Dawn creeps over the canyon, turning stone and blood into cold gold. In the harsh light, the truth settles between them. Sasha is still bound in iron, helpless without the keys. Ben lies shattered, clutching his ruined leg, unable to stand, let alone reach her. The escape they both need exists, but only in the hands of someone who can no longer move. And time is already running out. So, the hunter and the prey make a terrifying compromise. They form an unholy alliance. Ben forces the key into the lock, and the iron chain finally releases Sasha's hand. Then he threads a thick rope through the harness and knots it tightly around her, deliberate and unforgiving, binding his broken body to her survival. From this moment on, escape is no longer individual, they survive together, or not at all. The canyon wall rises like a blade against the sky as Sasha begins her ascent, fingers scraping into stone, muscles shaking with every pull. Below her, Ben's broken body drags against the rock, the rope tightening with every desperate move she makes. Each step upward is agony, slow, brutal, relentless, like she's dragging death itself out of the depths behind her. As they get higher and higher, Ben starts getting cocky again. He believes he has won, thinking that once they reach the top, he will just kill her anyway. As she climbs, Sasha quietly unbuckles the lock connecting her to Ben and secures the rope to a broken branch, buying him a few precious seconds before the weight drags him down. Sasha reaches a stable ledge near the very top. Ben is dangling just below her, smiling his wicked smile. She realizes she didn't want to die, she wanted to live. And she is done letting men drag her down. With a cold look, Sasha completely detaches herself from the safety harness. For one endless second, he hangs suspended in terror, then drops into the abyss. His body smashes violently against the jagged rocks far below. With the last of her strength, Sasha claws her way up the final stretch of rock, fingers raw and trembling against the stone. Then, at last, she pulls herself over the edge and collapses above the canyon. For the first time in months, there is no screaming, no fear, no falling, only silence and survival. A passing driver spots Sasha stumbling along the roadside and rushes her to the ranger station. There, she confesses everything and provides information about the missing hikers. Soon, police flood the canyon and the hidden underground nightmare beneath it, uncovering the butchered remains of more than 20 victims lost to the wilderness. In the film's final moments, Sasha walks alone along a quiet shoreline as golden sunlight spills across the waves. From her pocket, she pulls out Tommy's compass. She holds it close for one lingering moment, tears softening into a peaceful smile, then casts it deep into the endless ocean. And as the tide carries it away, Sasha finally lets go of the past and steps toward a new beginning. That marks the end of the movie. Thank you for watching.